On 5 News, a supermarket standoff over Brexit after Tesco stopped selling some big-name brands owned by Unilever in a dispute over prices. The boss of Next warns price rises will spread. Also, new plans for another referendum on Scottish independence. Nicola Sturgeon says she'll start consulting on it as early as next week. Hospitals buckling under pressure, a care system reaching tipping point, the damning verdict of health watchdogs on the NHS. Donald Trump hits back as women come forward to claim he groped them.
He was like an octopus. It was like he had 6 arms. He was all over the place.
And thanks for the memories. Jessica Ennis-Hill announces her retirement from athletics. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. It's our biggest supermarket chain versus one of the world's largest companies, and it's affecting some of Britain's favourite household products. Tesco has withdrawn brands like Marmite, PG Tips and Persil from sale online because the parent firm behind them, Unilever, has increased prices. It says it's in the light of the uncertainty over the pound. It's not just the supermarket which is feeling the effect of Brexit either. As Julian Drucker reports, the boss of Next is also warning of possible price hikes in the high street.
It's the British brand and the taste which splits the nation in two. Appropriate then that Marmite finds itself in the fallout from the referendum, which has also caused division. As the pound has dropped sharply, Unilever, which owns a host of household brands, says it will raise prices in the UK to compensate. The country's biggest retailer, Tesco, resisted though, and so removed those products from its website. As those goods started disappearing from the shelves too, how did Tesco customers view the dispute?
What's happening with Tesco's is perhaps the start of things to come. And if I want Marmite, I'll go elsewhere.
Too many people said we should have left, and I thought it was the wrong decision, but everyone each to their own. But yeah, I think it will push the prices up. I think most things will go up.
I'm a bit sick of the old Brexit thing anyway. Are you? Yeah. Everything's going to be more expensive anyway.
As MPs today accuse Unilever of using Brexit to exploit customers, the manufacturer says some of its products are made outside the UK, so it needs to be getting more pounds for them. 5 News contacted some of Britain's biggest supermarkets, but they declined to comment on the relationship with Unilever or other suppliers.
We can be certain that Unilever is not the only supplier going to supermarkets and demanding a price increase because of the falling price of the pound against the dollar. Because food is not just ingredients, it's packaging and it's distribution, and tons of that is priced in dollars.
From supermarkets to shopping centres, the falling pound means higher inflation is likely. The boss of Next says its prices may rise by as much as 5% next year.
I don't know what inflation is going to be across the economy. I think there will be inflation. I suspect it won't be as high as people think. The priority, though, must be to do other things in our economy to stimulate growth.
The chief financial officer of Unilever says he believes the row will be resolved quickly. But is this melee over Marmite just the start of what's ahead for consumers as we begin to prepare for Brexit?
Julian's here. MPs were talking about Marmite and Brexit today. Who knew that they would put the two together? What have they been saying?
Yes, Marmite has never been mentioned so much in Parliament as it was today. Ministers say they won't intervene in this, though. They say it's a row between two commercial companies, and it's hardly an emergency, according to the Leader of the House, David Lidington. He stresses there are other similar brands of this product available, but the row is about so much more than Marmite. The Shadow Business Secretary Clive Lewis suggesting more and more retailers will be squeezed by high import prices in the coming months. Not a great day, though, for Unilever or Tesco. Both have seen their shares fall today, and we're yet to see how this row will end or whether other retailers will be brought into it as well.
Julian, thank you. Well, one of the biggest repercussions of Brexit could be on the United Kingdom itself. And while Scotland voted no to independence in the 2014 referendum, the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has begun the process for a second one because she says the UK faces an unstable future. Our political editor, Andy Bell, reports.
First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon.
Has one referendum opened the door for another? Today, Nicola Sturgeon warned Theresa May that if the UK left the EU without taking account of Scotland, another independence vote would follow.
But hear this. If you think for one single second that I am not serious about doing what it takes to protect Scotland's interests, then think again.
2 years ago, Scots voted to stay part of a UK that was still in the EU. But now Britain is heading out, while more than 60% of Scots voted to stay in. So in starting the process for another referendum, doesn't Scotland's First Minister have a point?
So Nicola Sturgeon has no mandate to hold a second independence referendum. She promised the people of Scotland that she would respect the result from the last one that was held just 2 years ago. And the majority of Scots, time and time again, have indicated they have no wish to return to the divisions of the past.
If you had to put money on it, would you expect there to be a referendum within the next 3 years?
Not if I've got anything to do with it.
The Prime Minister said she'll consult with the Scottish Government, but in the end Brexit will be a British government decision. And some see today's announcement more as a part of that struggle and wonder whether Scotland's First Minister really wants another independence vote.
She will only want it if she's convinced, if there's consistent polling to show that they're guaranteed to win it. And at the moment, all the polling points in the opposite direction.
We are several steps away from a second independence referendum, but she has put it back on the agenda and signalled that Scotland won't just go along quietly with whatever's decided south of the border. Andy Bell, 5 News.
The Prime Minister's spokesman insists Britain has no plans for military action in Syria. It comes after the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said it was time to consider all options, including military options, to end the bloodshed. Mr Johnson also called for a meeting of foreign ministers this weekend. He'll discuss a new way forward in Syria and Iraq with the US Secretary of State John Kerry, as well as their French and German counterparts. The true extent of the pressure on the NHS in England was laid bare today in a shocking report from the regulator, the Care Quality Commission. In its most comprehensive study yet, it found problems throughout the system, from heavily burdened A&E departments to ill-equipped GP surgeries, all of which it says is putting patient safety at risk. Well, the CQC rated 8 in 10 NHS hospital trusts as requiring improvement or even worse, inadequate. That means urgent action needs to be taken. When it comes to GP surgery, the situation is hardly any better. 800,000 people are registered with an inadequate practice. One of the worst performing parts of the system are emergency departments. There are safety fears in 2/3 of England's A&Es. The regulator says that's partly down to cuts in social care, which it states are at tipping point. Dominic Reynolds reports.
The NHS is slowing down. A&E waiting times are up, ambulance waiting times are up, routine operations are being delayed and patients are blocking beds. But a major new review now suggests those symptoms may have one common cause: a social care system in crisis.
Keep walking straight ahead.
There's no crisis here. Carers working for this provider take time because they can. But they say if a local authority was paying for this, it would be different.
We have never entered into local authority contracts because the care that we provide is all about time. So the council would ask us to provide 15-minute, half-hour, 45-minute calls, and we don't believe that we can deliver the care of the highest quality that we do in that time, so we steer away from it.
Joyce Boardman had different carers and a very different experience. After she was admitted to hospital badly dehydrated, her children were shocked to find her nursing home room strewn with pills, wine bottles and dirty clothes.
You look at the photos of my mother-in-law when she's in hospital, and those aren't the memories you actually want to have of relatives. You want to have happy memories.
Joyce died a few days after this was taken. In the past 10 years, the number of over 85s has increased by 33%, but the number of beds in nursing homes hasn't increased at all for 18 months. This year, 81% of councils cut spending on social care, and at the same time, the watchdog found that just 1% of social care provision was in the highest category, outstanding. Social care needs more money. That's the unprecedented call from the health watchdog today.
We feel we're approaching a tipping point where people are not being supported by adult social care in the numbers that they need to be. And the consequence of that is some people are not getting a service, but others are actually going to the NHS.
There is one statistic which has kept going up since the NHS started. People are living longer. Today's report paints a picture of care services which haven't adapted fast enough. And that's putting a new strain on the whole system. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
A number of women in America have come forward to say they've been sexually harassed by the Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. Days after it was revealed that he'd boasted about groping women, a magazine reporter has claimed he forcibly kissed her, while another woman said he grabbed her inappropriately. Mr. Trump says the claims are phony and a fabrication. Peter Lane reports.
Thursday night, you're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
An inappropriate remark about a schoolgirl. Old footage from Entertainment Tonight in 1992 comes back to haunt Donald Trump.
This was locker room talk.
But after last weekend's insistence from the presidential hopeful that his were only ever words, not actions, and locker room talk, there are more serious allegations. One from a woman who told the New York Times that she was groped by Mr. Trump back in the 1980s when she sat next to him on a plane.
He was like an octopus. It was like he had 6 arms. He was all over the place. And if he had stuck with the upper part of the body, I might not have gotten that upset. But it's when he started putting his hand up my skirt, and that was it.
From Donald Trump, denial, a tweet calling it a phony story and total fabrication. It comes as more old recordings and interviews are re-examined. On the Howard Stern show in 2005, Mr. Trump described going backstage at beauty pageants where models were undressing.
And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant and therefore I'm inspecting it. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Now one former contestant has made her own claims.
To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him.
This was already an extraordinary race for the White House, with more focus than ever on personality over policy. Donald Trump will face Hillary Clinton in their final head-to-head debate next week. Peter Lane, 5 News.
And still to come on the programme. Why Jessica Ennis-Hill is saying goodbye to athletics, and
The answer, my friend, is a blowing in the wind.
making history, Bob Dylan is awarded a Nobel Prize for Literature. All that and more after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Every year in the UK, 3,500 babies are stillborn and 2,000 die within the first weeks of their lives. Today, in a debate in Westminster, MPs gave emotional accounts of their own experiences of losing a baby, prompting tears from their colleagues and calls for more to be done to reduce the number of deaths. Ruth Liptrot reports.
Having a baby is meant to be one of life's most incredible experiences. Unfortunately, though, not everyone is this lucky. Today, as part of Baby Loss Awareness Week, MPs said that they wanted to cut the rate of stillbirths by 20% by the year 2020. And for some of them, it was a tough topic.
She stayed alive for hours. I never wanted to let her go.
Labour MP Vicky Foxcroft's daughter died 5 days after complications in childbirth.
She was never able to cry, to smile, but I loved her and I desperately wanted her. I still love her. She is always in my thoughts all these years afterwards, even if I don't talk about her all the time.
But it's not just about reducing the number of deaths. It's about making sure that when the worst does happen, it's handled with sensitivity. Laura delivered her stillborn baby Aisha at 31 weeks. She then had to go back onto a normal maternity ward with mums who'd just had their babies, hearing the sound of their cries and witnessing other people's happiness.
I remember a dad sort of parking himself outside my room, talking on his phone to his whoever,
just saying, you know, how proud he was of his partner because they'd had this beautiful baby boy, and he was stood there as proud as a punch with his balloon in his hand saying congratulations. And when my mum returned back into my room, I just broke down in tears and just said to my mum, who's going to buy me my balloon?
As of this week, though, Swindon's Great Western Hospital has a specially designed bereavement suite for mums who have to give birth to a stillborn baby. It's something Laura's been working towards since Aisha's death.
It's just making it more protected, more secluded and more private for families so they're not exposed as what I was.
When someone has lost a baby, nothing can make things better. But places like this provide some dignity and a chance to grieve in peace. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News.
Ruth Liptrot reporting there on the trauma of losing a baby. The singer Bob Dylan has won quite a few awards over the years, but now he can add a rare and prestigious honour to his collection, a Nobel Prize for Literature. The 75-year-old is the first songwriter to win it, and he received the prize for having created new poetic expressions within the great American song tradition. Warren Nettleford reports now on the legend behind the lyrics.
After the name, just listen to the reaction from journalists.
Bob Dylan.
Almost universal delight for a moment in history. Bob Dylan, the first musician ever to be awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature.
He's a great poet. He is a great poet in the great English language tradition stretching from William Blake onwards.
Bob Dylan's musical ascent began in the 1960s. He actually took his stage name from Dylan Thomas, the Welsh poet. Aged just 21, he wrote this song, Blowing in the Wind, which became an anthem for the civil rights and anti-war movements. As an artist, he was a trailblazer and innovator. Back in 1967, no one was making music videos like this. He managed to mash folk with electric guitars whilst maintaining a dexterity in his storytelling.
Some people might be surprised that Bob Dylan will win a prize for literature, but I think what he's done is brought literary skills and literary quality into pop music. You know, he's brought ideas, concepts, plots, protest, and combined that with music to produce something that is more than just a pop song. It's more than just "Hey, I love you." It's really provocative stuff and really thought-provoking material, and I think that's why it is literature and a worthy winner of this prize.
Bob Dylan's cultural impact has been recognised before. Here in 2012, he was awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Obama. In a career that has seen him release almost 50 albums and awarded countless musical honours, it could be that his words, rather than his music, define his legacy. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Well, when it comes to legends, few would argue that Jessica Ennis-Hill is an all-time great of British sport. 2 World Championships, the second barely a year after giving birth. An Olympic gold on that Super Saturday during London 2012 and a silver in Rio earlier this year. Well, today she announced her retirement, as Minnie Stevenson reports.
She was unquestionably the poster girl of London 2012. When Jessica Ennis-Hill crossed that finish line, she not only famously won gold, but the nation's heart, becoming idolised by millions, known by all. But after winning silver at Rio this year, the heptathlete had hinted she may retire. And today was the day. Breaking the news on Instagram and calling it one of her toughest decisions, she wrote, "I've always said I want to leave my sport on a high and have no regrets, and I can truly say that. I want to thank my family and incredible team who have spent so much of their time supporting me and enabling me to achieve my dreams. Also a huge thank you to all those people who have supported and followed my career over the years." And the feeling is very much mutual. Stars of the sporting world were queuing up to praise the athlete. Diver Tom Daley said, "Congratulations on an amazing career. You'll be awesome in whatever you choose to do next." Or as athlete Greg Rutherford put it, "You're an inspiration to everyone, young and old. It's been a pleasure to be one of your teammates. Enjoy retirement." Those who know her say this gold medalist was always a grafter. At just 10 years old, the athlete began to compete in the school summer holidays. Ennis-Hill's first ever competition prize was a pair of trainers. From there, she would go on to be one of Britain's greatest Olympians. In 2014, taking a break to have her son Reggie, only to return 13 months later and win a second world title. Despite all her achievements, the athlete, who only last year won Sportswoman of the Year, has always remained humble.
It's so surreal to stand here, firstly in front of all you amazing sportsmen and women.
She now bows out on a high, having inspired an entire generation. Now, not many people can say that when they retire at 30. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
And good luck to her. Matt's here to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight. Hello there.
Good evening, Sean. Yeah, we're going to be discussing that great standoff between Tesco and Unilever. Whose side are you on? Would you be prepared to pay more for your favourite products because of the rising cost of imports? Or are Tesco right to refuse to put up prices? Let us know on our Facebook page. Search there for Channel 5 News. And the decision to award Bob Dylan the Nobel Prize for Literature has had mixed responses to. The writer Salman Rushdie has called it a great choice, but Trainspotting author Irvine Welsh says it's an ill-conceived nostalgia award. We'll be asking who's right.
Thank you, Matt. See you a bit later. That is it for now. Sean Welby has the weather next. Matt is back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Goodbye for now.